Hello, everyone. We are still talking about Best Mates, the latest and greatest release for the Brewmasters Collective. I'm here with Craig and Ollie in Eric's Theater of Barrels to talk about the next beer, Parabajava. Parabajava, now this is the 5th release of this beer. It's one I just absolutely love. I think early on we knew that coffee infusions and imperial stout were a natural for sure. Parabajava is an interesting, fun little twist on the name. This particular vintage, 13.8% alcohol.
I saw that. I saw that.
And Eric dropped that these were, this vintage or this particular lot of Parabola, mouthful, was aged in 12-year Heaven Hill barrels. So some vintage whiskey barrels.
What coffee beans did he use?
Indonesian.
Wow.
But I think important to that is that we partnered up with HoneyCo. And if you're not from the Central Coast, you may not have heard of HoneyCo, but HoneyCo is kind of the cool kids in town in terms of roasting. We have a few roasters in town. The proprietors worked at Verve up in Santa Cruz, and I feel like they're always very light-handed with their roasts. You know, their coffees are very elegant. They really showcase the beans. So we don't get a lot of that really, you know, acrid or roast character from the coffee itself. We're really getting a lot of the caramel notes and the other things that come from the fruity notes from the coffee. In this particular case, we did a whole bean extraction, and you probably heard maybe us talk a little bit about how we do the coffee extractions. We tend to take a finished beer, in this case, rack it from the barrels into stainless steel in the cellar, and then recirculate the beer through, in this case, a bed of whole bean coffee.
It's also a cold extraction, so the beer is all the way ice cold. All the yeast has been dropped out of it, and the whole bean is kind of a newer concept that we've done down at the Propagator and started doing it up in Paso, because we feel like you get less of some of those off characteristics that you're not looking for, like green pepper and some of those, and you get more of the expression of the bean. So yeah,
it's probably not the most efficient.
Absolutely not.
It tends to make the best beer. And you make a good point on the cold extraction, because, you know, these cold pressed coffees or these cold extracted coffees are also really popular. And I think, again, you don't get as much of the bitterness of the bean. You get more of the really beautiful essence, the aromas, the flavor, active compounds.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the brewers took some of the coffee after it was extracted out of and took that home and actually made coffee with it, because there was enough there to keep going.
Yeah. What do you think of it, Craig?
It's always a fun beer, especially when we do the trial blends. And I feel like when we get our different coffees out and figure out which one we're really gunning for, it seems like the table always steers towards, if not a unanimous vote, it's always fairly, you know, one-sided. And to me, it's usually those coffees that are fruitier in character. I feel like with a lot of imperial stouts, when they add coffee to them, everybody kind of defaults to chocolate caramel kind of qualities. I think that's kind of boring. I like to get something in there that will elevate it. And so when we get these coffees, Indonesian, Ethiopian for the most part, when we go back into previous vintages, I feel like they deliver these fruit characteristics. I think we mentioned blueberry in the tasting notes. I get citrus aromatics as well, not in like a clashing way with the chocolate, more in the sense of like a chocolate orange kind of character. Yeah. It's always a really fun beer to explore, because you have all the complexity that is Parabola, and then we just bring in another tone to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think coffee is already in Parabola, right? That roast barley that we use has a really coffee note. And it's always tempting to go heavy-handed. I think we went 1.5 pounds per barrel on the coffee beans. And I feel like it's in perfect concert with the beer. It's there, there's no doubt. It's definitely in the retro nasal, but it's not overpowering the beer. You still get the Parabola in the barrel.
And one other thing with coffee is, I actually think out of all the adjuncts that we've done with some of these barrel-aged beers, this one ages the best. I've opened up past vintages where I've been like blown away with the coffee character and how well it gets expressed once the Parabola has a little bit of age to it. So please, if you get a couple of these bottles, maybe put a couple in your cellar here. for trials later.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a while since we did a vertical on Parabajava. That'd
Yeah.
be another fun thing to do because we tend to use a different coffee every year. So that's Parabajava. Sticking with that story.
That's all I got to say about that, huh?
It's a really good beer.
Goddamn
It's
right.
really nice.
Sure, guys. Hope you guys
Cheers.
enjoy it. Thanks.